Hello and welcome to Moviedio channel. Today we'll go over the events of Death Note, a crime drama released in 2006. There will be spoilers ahead. You've been given fair warning. Give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment with your favorite section, and subscribe to our channel for more. When a book falls from the sky and drops on the ground in Tokyo, it is pouring heavily. Then we observe someone scribbling on a piece of paper. Police are pursuing a wanted offender named Yusuke Hibisawa. Yusuke snatches an innocent girl and points the gun at her head, hoping to get away from the cops. Yusuke has been warned by the police to leave her alone. Yusuke drops to the ground, feeling a peculiar agony in his chest. Then there's Katsuyushita, the deputy director of foreign affairs, who grudgingly emerges from his office, where a group of journalists awaits him. They interrogate him about different claims against him, and he, like Hibisawa before him, collapses in front of them. Similarly, a sequence of inexplicable deaths is occurring, with the most intriguing aspect being that they are all criminals. It is a source of concern for all journalists and newspapers. These deaths are taking place all across the world. In their various quarters, prisoners are dying one by one. Because the deaths are occurring on such a large scale over the world, the government doubts that they are caused by infections. But why only inmates? Some religious organizations believe that God is the one who is punishing all of the sinners. People think that someone is responsible for all of the deaths and refer to the unidentified individual as Kira. Kira is now regarded as a rescuer of the underworld by the general public. The crowd has varied feelings about him after he executes all of the convicts. Some call him a hero, while others believe he is just like any other criminal. In the heart of the city, a crowd gathers to watch the news on a billboard. The reporter interrupts the regularly scheduled program to deliver breaking news. Hiromichi Mizumi, a man from Tokyo, has broken into a consumer finance company. The reporter believes that his massive debt motivated him to disobey the law. There is a man in the center of the crowd who, upon hearing this, takes out his note and writes Hiromichi's name on it. The criminal has been holding the bank employees for 5 hours, and 3 of them have already been killed. However, in the midst of the violence, the suspect was claimed to have died suddenly. Employees who were being kept as fugitives report that the suspect suddenly grasped his chest and fainted. This occurred shortly after the unidentified individual scribbled the suspect's name on his letter. The crowd is seen applauding Kira once more. Light Yagami, a law student, is the unidentified man in the crowd. Light hacks the Japanese police website a few weeks before the incident, and is astonished to see that all of the sought criminals' cases have been dismissed. This is something he does not believe. So he goes to a local tavern to confirm this, when one of the criminals confesses that he has been released free by the authorities. This shatters Light's faith in the law. He finds a book in the middle of the street that night. The title Death Note is written on the cover. Whoever's name is inscribed on this notebook shall die, it says on the first page. Simply put, Light grins. He then sees a story about a murderer. He writes his name in the book without thinking. The next day he discovers that the murderer has been found dead, much to his surprise. He believes it is purely coincidental. However, just to be sure, he adds the name of another crook he met in the club. The criminal drops in front of him in an instant. Light examines the regulations mentioned on the note, taking it seriously. It claims that the note will only work if the writer has the person's face in mind when writing it. Furthermore, it will occur if a cause of death is mentioned within 40 seconds after writing the person's name. Alternatively, the person may die of a heart attack. On his way home, Light encounters Ryuk, the god of death. Anyone who touches the Death Note can see Ryuk. Light accepts Ryuk's offer to use the book. The increase in deaths has cops alarmed. They enlist the assistance of an unidentified agent known only as L, who communicates solely through a laptop. He believes Kira is a Japanese national. Ryuk follows the Light everywhere he goes. The cops have set up a trap to track him down. Through a live broadcast, L challenges Kira to a duel with a fleeing criminal. After hearing his harsh comments, Light scribbles his name in the book with wrath. In front of live television, he dies instantly. It turns out that the conference was only broadcast in Japanese. Kira's nationality is now known to the police. Kira is challenged by L to kill him. Kira, on the other hand, is powerless because L has never exposed his face. By considering the aggregate timings of the fatalities, L deduces that Kira is a college student. The deaths generally coincide with a college student's schedule. There are no deaths at all during the class period. Light learns about the inquiry by hacking into the police database once more and altering the times of the murders. As a result, the cops are skeptical that Kira receives information from their team. Light is walking through the park when he notices that he is being followed. He becomes more aware of the murders. In between his talks, Ryuk informs Light that he is entitled to the remaining years of the victims who perish as a result of the book. The unidentified man follows Light wherever he goes. As a result, Light comes up with a brilliant idea. Light and his companion board a bus, and the follower joins them. He confronts the follower first, but he refuses. A fleeing criminal attempts to kidnap everyone. Light makes a note on a piece of paper stating he is about to do something and hands it to the follower. The follower, however, discloses his identity as Ray Penber and that he is a skilled FBI agent who wishes to tackle the thug alone. The culprit picks up the shredded piece of paper from the death letter that has fallen to the ground. Ryuk is now visible to him. The thug panics and begins shooting at him, but it is ineffective. He eventually runs out of ammo and attempts to flee. He's in a hurry to get away, so he jumps off the bus, runs under a car, and dies instantaneously. It turns out that this was all part of Light's strategy to track down his follower. Light's father is a cop, and the agent is following him because he believes his father gave him information on L. He now knows the agent's name is Ray Penber and intends to assassinate him. Ryuk cautions him against taking the leap. After that, Light intends to threaten Ray. He threatens to kill him by calling him over a transmitter. He wants Ray to jot down all of the FBI agents who are tailing him. He then instructs him to examine the faces of all the agents in his database. The paper Ray is writing the names on turns out to be from the Death Note. All of the FBI agents die at the same time. After Ray's work is completed, Light kills him. Naomi rushes towards him in an attempt to save him, but it's too late. So Akira Yagami, Light's father, is the agent in charge in Japan. He asks all of his officers if they want to drop out of the case because they are afraid of being killed. Except for 6 officers, everyone leaves the room. The agent has made it clear that he wants to meet L. Watari introduces the agent to L, who is a young man. L is a brilliant young woman who has already deduced that Kira is manipulating the deaths. Mr. Yagami and L begin collaborating to apprehend Kira. Naomi is now conducting her investigation into Kira's whereabouts. L discovers the footage of Ray's death at the same time. He calls Mr. Yagami to inform him that he has found the culprit. He showed the agent the photos of the probable criminals, who were all members of his family. The sight of this astounds Light's father. L explains that the agent was pointing at someone inside the train while dying. And Light was standing there watching him draw his final breath. Mr. Yagami's family is now under continual observation, according to L. Light is now scheduling deaths a week ahead of time. Light and his family are being watched in the meanwhile. Naomi is suspicious of Light and vows to punish Kira. When Light returns home one day, he discovers that someone has already entered his bedroom. The presence of cameras and bugs in Ryuk's room is confirmed by Light. Light is constantly monitored by Mr. Yagami and L in his room. So yet, though nothing suspicious has surfaced, Mr. Yagami feels confident in Light's innocence. L, on the other hand, is adamant about continuing the surveillance. L wonders why there haven't been any deaths while she's been watching Light. While Light is being monitored, it is discovered that there has been a death. Mr. Yagami breathes a sigh of relief, but L reminds him that Kira has the ability to control victims' deaths. As a result, they are currently waiting for additional deaths. It's now the 6th day. When Light and his family are having supper, his sister inquires as to why their father has been absent for so long. Light tells her he has to go to work. He goes to his room, locks the door, and opens the chip packet. He studies while munching on it while being watched by L and the cops. Suddenly news arrives that a fresh offender has been apprehended, and he dies of a heart attack a short time later. Light is no longer a suspect, and all of the agents are relieved. However, Light had been writing the criminal's name on the inside of the chip bag the entire time. L remains skeptical but orders that all cameras and bugs be removed from Light's room. Naomi phones L one day and tells him she has proof that Light Yagami is Kira. Shiori, Light's friend, calls him to meet up, and Light says he'll be there in 30 minutes. Light is suspicious of her since she has an unusual voice. In actuality, Naomi was the one holding a gun at her and ordering her to call Light. Shiori abruptly disconnects the connection, and Light bolts out. At an art gallery, Light and Shiori were meant to meet. The gallery is being watched by L and his agents. When Light reaches the door, it summons Shiori, who welcomes him inside. Mr. Yagami discovers that his son is still under surveillance. He becomes enraged, but L appears to be certain that Light is Kira, so he takes no action. Naomi is pointing a gun at Shiori when Light enters the room. Light is asked by Naomi to reveal that he is Kira. She would kill Shiori if she didn't. Light denies being Kira and begs Shiori to be left alone. Naomi, on the other hand, refuses to budge. Kira can't kill without a name, she knows. As a result, she gives Light her real name. The fiancé simply turns away during the conversation, and Shiori tries to flee. Naomi unintentionally shoots Shiori in a panic. Light is in disbelief. Agents are already stationed at the gallery's entrance. They race to the crime scene in a hurry. Before she dies, Light and Shiori kiss one last time. Light screams out in anguish. Elle and Mr. Yagami are still keeping an eye on things. At this point, the agents arrive on the scene. Naomi then shoots herself in the head with a gun. The cops arrive to assist them. Light is at the church in the next scene, which takes place before the deaths, where he discovers Naomi's name on her wedding card. Light then painstakingly scribbles the entire story of Naomi's death on the paper. After Shiori's death, Light meets with his father, who apologizes for not saving her. Ryuk comes just as Mr. Yagami departs the area. Light then discloses to him that he and Naomi plotted Shiori's death. Light was aware that officials had guns, and the fact that Shiori and he died at the same time confirms that the gun holder would be Naomi. So the dates and locations were the same, but their stories were not. Light assassinated Shiori in order for the officials to sympathize with him and abandon him. Ryuk refers to him as the true devil in disguise. When Light asks Mr. Yagami to let him join his squad with the excuse of eliminating Kira, the person responsible for Shiori's death, Mr. Yagami tries to get him into the car to drive him home. Elle appears on the scene shortly after, carrying the identical packet of chips that Light had used to scribble the names of criminals earlier. Light is introduced to Elle, who invites him to join the team in capturing Kira. The film finishes with the two of them standing in front of each other. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and comment on it, and subscribe.